AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
He's going to go. What a give it to and they stop. Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Not where. Midfield. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up his head and falls forward. And he fumbles the football and the Eagles have it. It's gone.
It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AATBirds Weekly Report. I myself, Johnny Ulecka, is joined by Chip for the Birds, and at Umpire Stories. And Jalen Hurts got the extension. The Jalen
we knew it was
Hurts
happening.
Extension podcast. We also have a guest coming up in probably about like 10 minutes or so. Former Eagles and Chiefs tight end Jason Dunn. We have him coming on, talk a little bit about, Eagles, maybe some touch on the Eagles and Chiefs, kind of similarities between the two teams. And
I want to talk about the Chiefs. They beat us in the Super Bowl. Not interested.
I know. But, and also talk a little bit about the draft. He was a Eagles second round draft pick at Eastern Kentucky. So I want to bring that up as well. But welcome, Chip. And Jalen is now with the Eagles until 2028 so far.
Yeah. And I tweeted this out earlier today. I am so excited about this deal because we have said all along and talked all along about the character that Jalen Hurts brings and the locker room leader that he is. And for him to take a deal like the one he did, which is flat out a team-friendly deal, right? We're going to talk about the numbers and how they kind of stack it as the years go on, but making him both the highest paid player in NFL history and being a team-friendly deal. I mean, once again, Howie Roseman comes off as a brilliant genius, but Jalen Hurts comes off as a team guy, which we all know. And it just proves every single thing that he has been saying. I want to win. I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to bring in the guys that are going to help that. But it also respects what he brings to this team.
No, it does. And my feeling on it is you look at kind of the way it's structured. Adam Schefter did post out basically the next 4 years on how it's structured. He's getting $6.3 million this year. I think it's like 14 something the next year. Then it's like 21. Then it's like 30. Yes, 27 and 28 are big, massive hits.
Huge.
But the thing is, if he keeps ascending the talent level and what he's been doing the last couple of seasons, especially last season, if he keeps, getting better and better, by 2026, they're going to extend that contract, stretch out that money. And it's kind of a moot point. But the way the contract is structured, it still is making the Eagles able to add talent and to be able to keep the team intact, which is a emphasis and a key point on what some of us were concerned about. Some fans were concerned about, some fans weren't as concerned about it. I wasn't as concerned, but I knew when you look at the contract, bigger money, bigger dollar amounts are coming. So that's where you have to be able to be a little bit focused there. But for them, this is great. Deal, he gets what he deserves, the type of player, and Daniel Jeremiah, I think it was on John Clark's podcast, talked about that Eagles personnel or scout or whoever in the building talked to him and said, Jalen, ever since he started, was the first person in the building with the briefcase, the last person to leave, and that's just how he's wired.
Yeah, but he's been wired that way since Alabama. He's been... since every place that he has been that locker room presence. Yeah. And it's, we've heard a lot of talk, especially this offseason, about contracts when it comes to quarterback, specifically Lamar Jackson, right? Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson is looking for a deal that makes him the highest paid NFL player. And quite honestly, the rest of the team be damned. They went out and they got Odell Beckham and paid way too much for him. But again, he's still not in-house. You look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is a Jet ?
Right now,
that's been the longest trade I've ever. You hear about Trey Lance getting, potentially traded. You hear about, Brock Purdy being the dude. There's so much quarterback movement. So for Jalen Hurts to go, listen, I want to be an Eagle. The Eagles I know want me. And him to take a deal like that just says everything about this guy that is so good and so right. And the fact that, I sat here a year ago before the season said, hey, I would love to pay the guy, but he really has to show out and prove. And he went and answered every single question, led this team to a Super Bowl. So you know what? He gets paid.
Yeah, no, and he deserves it. The way he, on the field and off the field, the leader that he is. And, that 2020, I posted the draft, that 2020 draft is one that it hits it big because next week is the 3-year anniversary of this podcast starting. And the first show was the breakdown of the draft. And the biggest thing was, it was about the Jalen Hurts pick. It was about, another quarterback that you had just had on the roster, getting a big extension in Carson Wentz. And then you draft a quarterback in the second round. It led to a lot. And I like Jalen Hurts as a player coming out and everything. And then when he played, that Arizona game that he started and the way he came back after starting really struggling in his rookie season. And I don't know. I had faith in him. And 2021, they did squeeze into the playoffs. He had his ups and had his downs. And then 2022 hit and
he had an MVP caliber season. Season.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. And, it's great to see this. And the one thing about going into the draft is you're not worrying about, okay, do they have to look at a possible quarterback in the next year or two? Do they have to do that? It is so wide open. They can do whatever they want with the pick. There is no real you need to get a receiver. Last time they had the 10th pick, they got Devontae Smith because the receiver they had prior was right there, a failed experiment of Jalen Reagor not really producing. JJ Arcega-Whiteside not producing. So you don't have that. And you have AJ Brown. You have, these other Devontae Smith, and then they just signed Zacchaeus, who played with the Falcons, and they have Quez Watkins still. So they're offensively, they're set. Defensively, there's still some work there that needs to be done, but it's a luxury. Number 10's a luxury pick right now. And I think the quarterback that you have on the team and what he was able to do.
And it's interesting because when they drafted Jalen Hurts, it was definitely red flags all around. I mean, I remember absolutely torching the pick because you had just paid Carson Wentz an exorbitant amount of money, making sure that he was your franchise guy, and then he had this huge drop-off. But you drafted Jalen Hurts as an insurance policy, as a developmental type guy. Now, flash forward a couple of years, and Jalen Hurts is your guy. Carson Wentz is currently out of football. Now, I think he will catch on somewhere as a backup, but he's currently out of football. You have your backup in a same system type player in Marcus Mariota. No quarterback will be drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in this upcoming draft. I am marking it now. That is my a lock. No quarterback, not even a developmental guy to be a third string or a
maybe
a practice squad guy. No, not even a late pick. If anything, they will sign an undrafted free agent. No quarterback will be drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in the upcoming NFL draft. Book it, mark it, save this timestamp, 8:55, because if it does happen, I'm going to look like an absolute damn fool, but it will not happen. The Eagles are locked in at the quarterback position.
We will see. Of course, draft night is 1 week from Thursday, 1 week from tomorrow, first round starts. So I don't expect them to pick a first round quarterback. But again, next weekend or Thursday,
if they do, they just want to watch the world burn at this point.
But I love this time of year, the draft season coming and everything. But my one thing is also the Eagles did restructure Jordan Mailata. Basically, it doesn't do you anything this year, but it's for 2024 and 2025. You say 7.7 million and 7.8 million. Around that. It's somewhat close, but
it's Howie continuing to crunch the numbers that Howie does so that he never becomes a cap problem.
And they added a 2026 void year, which basically, again, if Jordan Mailata plays, offensive tackle the way he's been playing the last couple of seasons, they're probably going to give him an extension in the next year, probably the next year or two,
Sure.
and basically make that a moot point. And that's what a lot of teams, like the Eagles, the Saints do it. The Browns are starting to do it a little bit, but some teams can do this because you give the guaranteed money all up front. Some owners are able to, open their pockets and do that kind of stuff. Some teams aren't able to do it. And that's why you only see a certain amount that are able.
Right. Some teams have to cut exceptional members of their team because they just can't afford them.
Yeah. And there could be some cuts coming in the future. And of course, after the draft, there's teams that also sign players and cut players that, if they drafted a bunch of positions, and then they wind up cutting a veteran, that could happen as well. The Eagles took advantage of that last year with James Bradberry when the Giants let go of James Bradberry. And again, you could see one or two players of that caliber being cut because of money. And hopefully a team like the Eagles, who are, ready to compete for a championship like they did last year, and swoop in and pick them up. But I want to get your thoughts on this.
Wait, can I just ask you a hypothetical draft question?
Ahead. I like hypotheticals. Go ahead.
Do you think, hypothetically, that the Eagles would be willing to trade that number 10 pick for Budda Baker?
My opinion on it is,
I want him.
Yeah, but not for the 10th pick.
All right, so how about the 30th or the 31st, whatever we have?
The 30th pick, I guess I would think about it a little bit. I'd offer a second-round pick because I know that's what a lot of people have been offering. I'd offer a second-round pick, whether that's your second-round pick this year or maybe you trade a pick this year and potentially a pick next year, or two picks next year, a second and a third, or a second and a fourth next year for Budda Baker. I would love to have Budda Baker on the roster. I know there's been a lot of talk. I know there was a clip from up in Adams, Kay Adams posted, I think it was yesterday, posted a clip about, Budda Baker talking about Nick Sirianni, likes the way he runs it. And
did you see the clip of Jonathan Gannon walking in and talking to Budda Baker?
Oh, and doing the pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, and at that point, Budda Baker's like, I've been asking for a trade since the moment this. I'm so relieved that Jonathan Gannon is not a part of this team anymore. And maybe, hey, maybe in hindsight, at the end of this upcoming season, it'll be like, oh man, Jonathan Gannon was pretty good. But I don't hope that, I don't foresee that happening. I really do feel like Jonathan Gannon was a hindrance to this team.
You know what? He had his ups and his downs. I just, culturally speaking, and this franchise and this fan base and this city, maybe he wasn't a long-term fit. He wasn't and it's tough because any defensive coordinator that comes in here gets compared to Jim Johnson. They get compared to Buddy Ryan. They get compared to these guys fairly and sometimes unfairly. And, Jim Schwartz got a lot of heat. He also was a, leader of the defense that won the team this first Super Bowl. So, yes, he had his ups and his downs as well. Gannon, of course, he had his ups and downs. They had a record-setting sack performance type of defense last year. Their pass defense was great. Again, we saw what happened in 2021. He got the pieces. 2022, unfortunately, the last game of the season was almost the culmination of the whole season and kind of what you are looking at when you focus on him, because that's the last game. And he really didn't speak too much on it, which some coordinators don't, especially that he left as well. So, again, you have a sour taste left in your mouth. If they would have won the Super Bowl and he would have left, there was been some people like, good, I'm kind of glad he's gone. He gave us whatever. But unfortunately that is not the case. And I want to see what Sean Desai brings. If you follow Honest NFL on Twitter, he breaks down a lot of different schemes. He breaks down Desai's schemes, Fangio's scheme. He breaks down a lot of stuff, and he had nothing but great things to say, and talked to a bunch of people who've had contact with Desai. No, not a bad word, smart guy, everything. I'm very intrigued and can't wait for that to start. But no, I'm ready. I'm ready for the draft. I'm ready for them to see what they add. I want your I want a hypothetical for you. I want to ask you this question because I haven't talked to you.
I haven't been on in a couple weeks. You can see I've got my umpire red face.
Yeah, you got that.
I got a lot of sun, calling a lot of kids out.
But I want to ask you about Bijan Robinson. I want to ask you, would you take him with the 10th pick?
And it's so difficult because that 10 pick it's become kind of a hot button topic, and the idea of taking Bijan Robinson. So taking your question into two pieces, would I take Bijan Robinson? Absolutely. Bijan Robinson is going to be an incredible player in this league. Would I take Bijan Robinson at the 10? I don't think I would. Only because I look at running backs right now as a position where you really need two great running backs on your roster at any given time. You see the success that multiple organizations, if you look at an organization like the Saints with Alvin Kamara got used, abused, and basically is running on empty at this point. You look at the Dallas Cowboys. They had one and a half great running backs in Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard's going to stay. Ezekiel Elliott is gone. So for us to spend that kind of draft capital on the number 10 pick on Bijan Robinson, I love the player. I just feel like that might be a little too high for running back when running back is not necessarily a position of vital importance anymore. Javier, yes. If he drops like 15 or 20, would you trade down to get him? Yeah. That's where I package my number 30 pick and I go up some spots and I go and get him. Absolutely. Not a question at all in my mind. I like the 15 to 20 range for him. I do feel like 10 is too high, especially when I've said this before. When I look at the first round pick in general, they've got to be somebody that's going to come in right away, first year and start. Top 10, they have to be starters by day one, in my opinion, or on pace to start day one. And that's where I do see like a right guard position being probably the pick. I'd see some sort of offensive lineman at the number 10 spot. If they don't trade back, I could see them packaging the 10 and going into that 15, 20 range and then getting Bijan if that's how they see it happening.
Yeah, and I want Bijan Robinson. I like him as a player and everything, but thinking about it this week, I think offensive line, especially if they stay at 10, unless Jalen Carter somehow falls to 10, I think it's going to be the offensive lineman. I think within the first 3 picks, offense and defensive line are going to be at least 2 of those.
There's going to be a rush.
Because you look at the depth on the offensive line, you want to be able to have younger bodies in there of talent. You right now you don't have a whole heck of a lot, and especially with losing some guys.
And I also I look at a guy like Cam Jurgens. Like, yes, Cam Jurgens could play a guard position. He absolutely can. I don't necessarily want him to. I want him to learn how to play center so that when Kelsey is ready to go, Cam Jurgens can be the guy. We already know that he can be the guy. You got Dickerson on one side. I mean, you got Driscoll kind of floating around a little bit. Samalu's gone. I mean, I do think that a guard is going to be the pick.
Yeah, and again, it could be a number of guys. Paris Johnson was a guy that did a top 30 visit. He could play tackle or guard. He's played both.
And Howie likes that. Howie likes the versatility guys.
Peter Skoronski, again, another
That's who
player.
I think we're gonna. I think we're gonna get Skoronski, honestly.
Yeah, again, another guy there. If they happen to say, hold off on the 10th pick, and they maybe try and address it the end of the first round, I can see him going with a guy like Darnell Wright from Tennessee or DeJuan Jones from Ohio State. Cody Mauch from North Dakota State. There's some guys there as well, but I'm going to now push it off, and we are going to introduce our guest for the night. The Philadelphia Eagles second-round draft pick at Eastern.
That's right.
Kentucky,
That's right. Say it the right way.
Pick 54. Yeah, he did play with the Kansas City Chiefs from 2000 to 2007. He's with the Eagles from 96 to 99. I'm going to play a video here, and then we will get him introduced.
Philadelphia has selected Jason Dunn. There it is. Tight end, Eastern Kentucky.
Oh, Dunn. That's right. With the selection of Jason Dunn. This kid played every position.
On 3rd and 17, they throw underneath to Jason Dunn. Butler throws and finds Dunn. The rookie tight end. He's going to try to do it. Able to complete to the tight end.
He's holding on a bad juggle and caught by Jason Dunn.
Into the end zone. Wow. And it's caught for a touchdown.
Back to throw. He has good time this time. Good tight end, Jason Dunn.
Detmer dumps it off to the tight end Dunn. He has a ton of room. Jason Dunn inside the 5.
From the 15, 1st and 10. Detmer going to the end zone and wide open for a touchdown.
Boy has 5 and his hands to Dunn. He got it. Touchdown, Philadelphia. He's back. Blitz coming. He goes deep. He's got by Jason Dunn. His big tight end. And here comes the rookie from Eastern Kentucky.
Rodney Peete down the middle to his rookie tight end, Jason Dunn. Jason Dunn still on his feet.
Inside, throws a quick out. That's his man, the tight end. That's Jason Dunn. And he's inside the 15, inside the 10. And he's going in. And the underdog Eagles.
And welcome, Jason, to the show.
I love that.
Wow, my goodness. Thank you for having me. Man, I'm just looking at the clips and just going back over every single one. I'm just looking at them, man. That is beautiful. Just beautiful to see. Brings back a lot of memories. So,
with that bringing up memory, so what do you remember of your draft day in 1996?
Ooh, what do I remember my draft day, 96? Let me see. Well, I remember going to my agent's house and having a conversation, obviously, with the teams that were looking for tight ends at the time. And there were several that was kind of in what we were talking about, where I thought that I was going to be able to go. One of the places, obviously, Kansas City was one. KC was definitely one of the places. And so, I went on the visits and all of that, when we was talking as far as things that you do. But the night was just one of those things, man. You just had so much anticipation about who's going to call you, and you won't nobody being on the phone back then, it was like call at the house.
The landline.
And nobody call in on the landline. I don't care. Nobody call for anything. And so it was that, man. It was really just, a lot of butterflies, family and whatnot, just being around me. And so that whole night, man, it was nerve-wracking, put it that way. It's really nerve-wracking. And then, of course, when you seen that the teams that was coming up that I knew was looking at me, the places I went on visits, it was kind of like one of those things like, okay, here we go. What are we going to see? Who are we hearing about this? You see guys go before you and you just like, okay, they're taking this guy, then I'm kind of being slotted this way. And so Philly actually called me, I think in the first round they called me. They called me in the first round and they were saying, hey, look, be ready. We're thinking about taking you first round. And then, of course, first round comes, Philly, and it's Jermaine Mayberry. And I was like, oh, what? And Mayberry is my boy. I love Mayberry. He was able to get it. And, Philly called back. And I'm just like, yo, what happened? What went on? They were just like, listen, we have some questions here. We're thinking about maybe, this was kind of a direction where we needed more than anything else. So, we're there in the second round. We're going to get you. They didn't know I was going to be, there in the second round. Because like I said, it was, at least I know 5 teams that was ahead of them in the picks that wanted me too. And so I was just having a conversation with my agent, just about the whole process. And when Philly took me in the second round, it obviously was a wonderful thing, man. It was a glorious thing. But I remember that I was in the back of my agent's house, pissed. I was absolutely pissed because I was slotted to be a first-round pick. It didn't happen. I've seen some other guys that went before me. 2 tight ends went before me was Ricky Dudley and Marco Battaglia from Rutgers. And so, I was just thinking in my mind, I said, man, every team that passed on me, I'm gonna make the teams pay. And so that was my whole mode of what I was gonna do that year. Well, obviously, as time went on, I made all rookie team and all those different things, and the teams I had to play. I had a very good rookie year, and then I thought that was going to be my career. I thought I was going to be in Philly all during the time. The whole process in itself, man, it's going up to a new team, and it's just a whole different thing. It's just a whole different thing that I don't think people realize exactly what all goes into this thing, really. So that was kind of my night. It was my night, man. But I do remember it vividly. I remember everything about that night. I sure do.
So I got two questions about it. First off, thank you for joining the show. I mean, I love the draft stories because it's so tough to, as just podcasters, is kind of going like, well, what's that like? So I appreciate you sharing that night. First off, you mentioned Dudley and Battaglia. How much did you career watch alongside of them? Kind of like with that chip on your shoulder.
Oh man, I mean, every week it was, what did I do, right? I'm just looking at this, okay, what did this guy do this week? What happened with this guy, with Ricky this week and Marco this week. And so that was kind of the main thing because it was the guys that got before,
Sure.
before me. So I think it's just kind of natural. You kind of do that anyway, just because it's your position. And then of course, like going through the draft, this process, you're not really going through it alone. These are all the guys like doing, like I meet these guys during the Senior Bowl, during the Combine. You're talking to guys, all the time, have probably pretty much kind of the same agents. And so it's kind of like it's a world inside of a world, if you will, right? It's like, everybody's going in through this thing kind of the same. And so, I knew a lot of the guys that tight ends that went after me, but through the whole process, you want guys to do well. I think you've seen where they kind of show in the Combine where guys are rooting each other on, like, hey, man, come on, let's go. But it's about all what you can do. And so every week I was watching these guys. And the guys that went after me also, too, about as far as like how I was slotted, how I was rated against those guys. And like I said, I was the tight end that made it, for our rookie team. So I thought, I felt like, I was able to kind of at least vindicate myself that way.
So, and you mentioned the process of kind of going on these visits, and you mentioned you went to a couple different teams. So what does that look like? Now, I know like in 2023, they're going to roll out more of a digital red carpet and, show you the bells and whistles, but you're going on these visits. Like, who are you talking to? What are they saying to you? What kind of vibe do you get? Was there any organization? You don't have to mention the organization necessarily by name, but like they kind of went to, and you kind of went, dear God, I really hope that this is not the team that gets me because I don't want to be any part of it. Like, what does that whole process look like?
Well, I mean, when they set it up and it's just basically you go in, it's just like, okay, these are the teams that's really wanting you, to kind of, you're playing the part. And to be honest with you, the teams that I went to, I enjoyed each and every one of them. I didn't mind going to those teams. I think there was two teams I didn't want to go just because of the weather. And one was Buffalo at the time, and the other one was Green Bay. That was it. I was just like, man, I want to be in Green Bay, and I don't want to be in Buffalo. That was the only two. Other than that, I thought every other team that I was thinking about in NFL, I was fine with. But when you go in, you're not asking everything. They're pretty much asking every little thing that any questions they have about you. They're trying to throw you off with different questions. They're trying to find out, get a feel about who you are, how do you fit into their program and their system. You do a lot of board work, kind of talking that. It's a lot of just evaluation psychologically, answering questions. And so, that in itself is kind of nerve-wracking. You go out and you talk to every coach. You talk to your position coach. You talk to the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, where it may be, special teams guys. And then, of course, you go to the training room and you let them pull or tug on you. That's part of it too, man, which is just crazy in itself when you think about it. Because I remember the guy that was at the Combine, and he ended up, I think his stock was falling because his ankle injury, right? And I don't think he disclosed it, but some team, I don't know who it was, ended up pulling on him, and he's hurt. And so I think part of those things I get, them having to kind of kick the tires, if you will. but also too, those things may have a liability in hurting the guy because some of those things, man, is very tedious. I mean, you get in. I mean, they doing ripping and turning and ripping you, and so that process, I don't know as far as like how they do it now. But if I was an agent, I'd be like, listen, we can disclose whatever you need to hear, but as far as like pulling on my, my client, we want to keep that to a minimum. But man, when you go in, it's really an interview. Both of y'all are doing an interview. You're worrying about like, is this the place I want to go? Or is this the team is thinking like, is this who we want to draft? Is this the guy that we actually getting, the guy that we see on film? And sometimes those things, you can see things on video, but actually seeing a guy and knowing who he is a whole different animal in itself.
So I want to ask you about another draft pick who was right after you. Of course, he's an Eagle legend.
Yes, he is.
What was Brian Dawkins like for the years that you were on the Eagles? I know his story's been he was a football life. You got to see a lot of it. But for me, growing up as an Eagles fan, I started becoming an Eagles fan in that 97, 98 season. Okay. So, of course, Brian Dawkins played all the way up until, unfortunately, they let him go to Denver. But he was an idol. He's basically, when you say the Eagles, to me, that's what pops in my head. How was he as, a rookie? And then did you see those traits in him those few years you were with the Eagles?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, that's they used to call him Baby Boy. That's what what's the name used to call him all the time. Emmett Thomas. So Emmett Thomas was the DB coach. He was calling Baby Boy. But you see Dawk, man. I mean, when you talking about guys were just fearful coming over the middle, he had that all about him, man. When I'm telling you, just a physical player. That's who Brian was, and then and he is. I mean, it's just that's you could tell just in his passion and how he is. That's who he is as a person and as a player. So Brian, man, he's just fierce competitor. He'd been in the weight room lifting. You get to see how his just would just ooze out of him. As far as like being successful and just playing, and that's just who he was. And so it's kind of funny because like when I looked at the football life thing, it was almost like it was surreal. Obviously because I know him and I played with Brian. It's the thing about him when you see these stories, and sometimes it discloses maybe a little bit of things you didn't quite know what was going on either. At the facility and in guys' lives, and what I love about Brian now is because he shares a lot of that, and he wears his heart and his emotions out on his sleeves. But he gives a lot back. Just a man of faith, like I am. And I love how he's able to embody about who he is. He's not, he's not fake. There's nothing about him that, any of that, man. He's a true guy through and through, man. True man of God. But he's like one of the ultimate teammates. That's a guy that you want on your team. To me, I was just shocked, like you all were, when he went to Denver. And they're competing against Brian too. When they came out there to Kansas City competing, of course, we like brothers, just dapping each other up and stuff like that, man. But Brian, man, he Eagles legend. I'm so happy for him for what he was able to achieve. Him getting to the Hall of Fame because he definitely deserves it. I wanted to get up there for that time and wasn't able to. But man, I've just said ever since then, man. Brian, man, is just he's the truth. He's an Eagle legend, Eagles legend.
How do you go about as a player who's kind of approaching that next contract year? I'm talking about the end of the time with the Eagles when you were moving along to the Chiefs, where the Eagles really weren't very good, and there was a transition in head coaching. How do you go about kind of doing what you need to do while trying to get in with the new coach, where you might what is that whole process for a player like?
Oh man, that's tough. It's tough. I tell people this all the time. I said, the time, if you've never been on in an organization or a team, and it's not very happy going to work, and you're losing, you're not winning, it's a very tough atmosphere to play in. Just for the simple fact, I remember, and this is not exaggerated, but seeing guys that would be beside you in lockers, The very next day was gone. Or the very next week was out of there. I mean, I've never seen anything like that before. And so when you have that, was a little bit, kind of uncertainty and a lot of topsy-turvy as far as how things are going, you just have to kind of try to do your work as much as possible. You can't let negative things affect you. And so you will see certain guys have attitudes about, I'm just trying to get paid, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I just, for me, that was just never me. My thing was always go out there, try and do your best, trying to win regardless of whatever situation it was. And so that was my thing. My thing wasn't about, kind of like, down the road and stuff. It was about what now, what do you do now? Right. How do you control what you can control? And so when I would go out there daily, it was all about hard work because that's all I knew. Me coming from a smaller school, if you will, like Eastern Kentucky, 1AA at the time. To me, it was all about just hard work. It was like, you earning your spot, you get in there and doing what you had to do. And so when I was up there, I went through a lot of diversity. It was the things I had to go through because I had, 2 knee injuries. Chad Lewis that came in at the time. Chad was starting. And then all of a sudden I started, was coming back starting. And that was the thing. I was a starting tight end, and, until those transitions happened. And then when you have that, and trying to like understand the process of like the business side of it, those things like that could be difficult, especially for a young player. And you just don't quite understand like those relationships in itself until those things really, really start to affect you. And so when we was transitioning, leaving from Ray Rose, which I love Ray. I think every guy up there wanted to play for Ray. They loved just playing with him and his passion, who he was, what he meant to the team. And then bringing Andy in. And Andy was a guy that was his first head coaching job, trying to do what he had to do to implement his program, right? And that was a whole different thing because Green Bay and then coming to Philadelphia, doing what he had to do. And it was tough because he was bringing his guys in. And so those things, it's like you just don't quite know how you fit, but you just try to do what you need to do as possible to stay, relevant in the organization, and hopefully they retain you.
So I also want to bring this up because we had Irving Fryer on talking, and he did bring up 1998.
Yes.
And that season was it was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive coordinator Dana Bible, and he was saying that he basically wasn't really offensive coordinator towards the end portion of that season, but they didn't name him, and they didn't fire him or anything, but he wasn't really doing much. And, I didn't really know that. Of course, I was young at the time. But, you go into that season and, Ray Rhodes is then gone after that horrendous season. Then you happen to have another injury. You're out all of 1999 with the new head coaching staff and everything in there. Did you see kind of the writing on the wall saying, most likely my time is over here in Philly, I have to move on?
Well, no. So I'll kind of tell you a little bit of how it happened. Well, I won't go through the entire thing. So 98, like Irv said, Dana Bible came in as offensive coordinator. John Gruden had just left, went in becoming the head coach with Oakland. And Dana came from, college system. I forgot where Dana was at. I'm not quite sure. Might have been Ohio State, or maybe I'm not quite sure where he was at, but it just wasn't working. We weren't clicking like we should have. And so we had a very young quarterback.
I think he muted himself.
Yeah, so on the bottom of your screen, there's a mute button. If you hit that, you should be all right.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah, all right, cool. All right. So we had a young quarterback, Bobby Hoyne, at the time, which they were looking to, project him forward because Bobby is a very, very talented quarterback. And then, everything didn't happen quite like we expected it to. Matter of fact, when Dana Bible, I want to say like at the very first of the season, midway through the season, they end up putting, oh my gosh, as the offensive coordinator. I can't think his name right now. I see his face. But he ended up being an offensive coordinator. Well, he told me, he said, look, Jason, what I want to do is I want to use you like we did out in Denver. His quarterback out in Denver at the time. I can't think his name.
Was it Musgrave? Bill Musgrave?
Yeah, God, Musgrave. I can't believe it. Bill's good people, man. He really is. He said, look, Jason, I want to utilize you like we did Shannon out in Denver. And so I was getting the ball. I was catching like 3 or 4 balls every game after he came in as was offensive coordinator. And then against Green Bay, I think I had like maybe 4 or 5 catches at the half, and then I ended up getting hurt. Well, second knee injury. They told me exactly what it was, kind of bone on bone. It's going to be a 2-year process really for it to heal. It was crazy just going through that whole thing because I was really having a great year, and I was just thinking it was going to be another one of those deals. But when they started changing over, then Andy became head coach. It was like you said, it's a whole new regime, whole new guys learning different people. Doug came in, Peterson came in, was a quarterback too. I love Doug as well. That's when they brought what's the name in too, man. Five came in, was a quarterback. I remember him coming up. One of my boys, Kasim Cicino, was a tight end at the time, and him and Five were real good friends up at Syracuse. And so, Donovan, man, him just being the type of guy he was, I knew he was going to be something special when he got up into Philly. And so I was hoping that whole thing was going to happen and play out. But it just wasn't quite in the whole cards of things. I guess the 2 knee injuries is like one of those things about business. And I think part of the problem I had, or what they had also too, was the tender that I had to sign. So I was restricted under them, and I did the tender. I was like, man, I've done everything possible. They got hurt twice. Thought the tender should have been more than what it was. I signed the tender. And then, of course, Andy had their guys. I was still hurt. And it was probably, to be honest with you, 99 sitting out there year was probably my best decision, to be honest. Like I told you, it was a 2-year process for me to get ready. And so I knew if I had came back and got injured again, that might have been it for me. And as you know, after that, me sitting out at 99, I come back, play another 8 years in Kansas City. Didn't quite have the speed or I guess stretching the field like I used to when I was in Philly. We had another guy who was all Hall of Fame, all records of all time best tight end, Tony Gonzalez, that was playing with me. So that's pretty much what it is. But that's, you just never know these things. You just never know. I remember when I made my rookie year, and I went out there to Hawaii for the Rookie Bowl. It's when they first had a Rookie Bowl on the sand and stuff like that. I told the people, I said, man, get ready. I want to find me a place because I'm going to come here every single year and be in a Pro Bowl. That was my thinking. That's what I was thinking, because I was just that competitor. I just felt like I was one of those guys that needed to get the football. And so didn't quite happen. But there's a lot of conversations. I don't want to divulge it right here on the show because I don't want to start, talking a little bit behind what all transpired behind closed doors. We'll just put it that way.
So on a more positive note, because it's tough to kind of revisit, the what could have been situations. It's rough. We got a comment over here from Adam, so we're going to kind of reminisce a little bit more. So okay. Our follower Adam says, what was your favorite memory while playing with the Eagles? And I'm going to kind of add on a couple other things. So I want to know, along with your favorite memory while playing with the Eagles, I want to know your favorite player that you've ever played with.
Okay.
Whatever position. I want to know the best quarterback you ever played with and your favorite quarterback, because I feel like those two could be different.
Wow. Okay. So you're adding on to this. All right. So first, I'll tell you, I'll give you two favorite memories. All right. One's a really funny story. First memory out there, obviously, is the first touchdown that I ever caught. Okay. It was wide stick nod. Okay. West Coast offense, West Coast offense is an out route. Then you turn it back up, and Ty Detmer was my quarterback.
Ty.
Oh, my goodness, right? Heisman Trophy winner, BYU. Ty comes in. He's just like, look, Jason. He said, man, I'm throwing the ball to you. Ready. I said, look, you throw that thing up there. I'll go get it. And sure enough, he threw it up. And I remember catching the football and coming down. And I'm sitting there. When you first score, you don't know what to do. I didn't prepare like what I was, the dance and stuff. None of that. It was like one of my first greatest memories. Okay. The second is this. Here's the funny one. So Monday Night Football, we go up to go play Green Bay, all right? And I keep hearing about Reggie White. Obviously, I had Reggie White, just watched him all my life and to see the things he was able to do, checking it. So first half, I'm blocking Reggie. Okay, I'm getting prepared. I'm starting, and I'm just blocking Reggie. Okay, Reggie says nothing. I'm just like, man, okay. Oh, I'm just blocking him again. So halftime comes. I'm just like, man, Reggie haven't said a word to me. Not a thing. I haven't heard. Everybody's just like, look, just watch. He's not really that type of rah-rah guy. So third quarter, I'm blocking Reggie. And Charlie Gardner breaks out for like 40 yards, right? Coming back to the huddle, Reggie White smacks me on my tail and says, hey, man, good block. I turn around to Reggie White and say, hey, thank you, Mr. White. I put my hand out to shake his hand. I come to the sideline. The guys are like, man, did you just try to shake his? I said, man, that's Reggie White. Do you understand what it is? Who I'm blocking? You know, so that was just, oh, man. That's another, like, good, funny story. So who's the favorite player I love playing with?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if there's one favorite guy. You know, I always loved all my tight end guys. You know, Jimmy Johnson, another tight end with me, took care of me. Him and Ed West both. That was my boys. You know, they took care of me. They really took care of me. I would say all that the rookie class I came in with, man, was just all great guys. You know, like I said, man, shoot, Whit Marshall, Brian Dawkins, Ray Farmer, Jermaine Mayberry, all those dudes, man, was like my dudes, you know. So I still love them guys to the day. Diallo Burks, of course, my man, you know, played the EKU with me. I mean, that goes without saying, obviously, you know, as far as favorite, you know what I'm saying? That's my brother. So, but quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the quarterback thing. So I had.
Is it two different guys, the best and your favorite?
Okay. So you asked me who was the best quarterback I played with?
Yeah.
Just with Philly. You just say
no. You can even venture over to the enemy right now. I mean, right now I'm not crazy about the chefs because
it's got to be Trent Green. Come on, that's who I would think.
Look, Trent. Trent. I would say probably without a doubt, Trent. But all those guys, when I'm telling you, with Ty, Rodney P.
Yeah.
Bobby Hoyne, Coy Detmer, all those guys, man, all those dudes. Damian Heward, man, I'm talking about, man, all the guys I've had as quarterbacks have always been good guys. I never had a dude that was I don't know, thought he was over everybody else. You know, five for a little bit, whatever the little bit I had with him. Obviously, Donovan, you know, just because he, you know, that's my guy too. Who was my favorite quarterback?
Yeah, that guy that you knew was just going to put the ball in the right spot for you.
Yeah, favorite quarterback, I just know who's going to feed me. I'm going to say this. Brody Croyle, okay?
Ooh.
People don't know this name.
Okay.
Right? You remember Brody Croyle from Alabama?
Crimson Tide.
Look, what I love about Brody, okay, so I used to do, you know, in Kansas, I used to do the scout team too. Brody, every time I come to the huddle, it's like, Jason, I'm coming to you. So I would say that just the favoritism he would have with me, just throwing the ball to me. I'm like, oh, okay, shoot. And I remember, I think his first ball he threw when he came in the game was to me. And so at least that's how I remember. It may not have been true, but I remember Brody always wanted to feed the tight end. He always wanted to feed me. I felt like he had, you know, something as far as feed me the rock, if you will. So he gave me two of his dogs too, man. So Brody was a good dude, man. Yeah, I got two labs from Brody, man. It was just two awesome, beautiful, beautiful labs. So
again, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you? What are you up to? So you know, give yourself a couple plugs there.
Johnny, he's going to talk about the Chiefs right now on our show.
No.
I'm busting chops. So I know you do great work.
No, listen, I do. Obviously, after retiring, I got into coaching. So I coached high school for 4 years, college for another 4. Coached also my son in junior high. I just got back from well, I just got back, but I coached in the NFLPA bowl. out there, collegiate ball, for guys going into the draft this year. And so I try to keep, close as far as, coaching and mentoring guys. My Done for Kids is something that I do. Obviously, I do my show, Chiefs Concerns. Help my guy Marcus Thomas out, man, what he's doing for the Philly thing with the Eagles podcast. I love doing that. So I go on, different podcasts, just talking ball. And so that I'm a creature of habit. That's one of those things I do. I'm an evaluator. I've done scouting. So I've done a little bit of everything, man. But I'm just kind of service to everybody, the things that I can do. But I do love giving back as far as like football wise with knowledge and, talking about, whether it be draft or, the things that happen out here in the NFL football world. And so look, I stay with what's going on in Philly, no doubt about it. I come up here for a couple of games every year. But like shout out, I remember y'all talking about Jalen, getting his contract, man. That's big. That's big. I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan, huge fan of his, so I was very happy for him. It's well deserved. And so Philly did right. They got the guy of the future, and they should have done that. And I knew that when he drafted him, he was going to be the guy. And I don't know why there was questions and issues, 2 years ago, not thinking he was a guy. Because I'm sitting there like, well, how do you not like, Jalen Hurts for all the things he's done and what he can do? Well, you can see it in him. So I think Philly definitely got that right. But other than that, man, I'm just, I'm talking to the fans, and you see it, Chiefs, and I still love for Philly because it's my first home. I cut my teeth there. So that's my two teams in the NFL, man, Kansas City and Philadelphia. And so it was mixed emotions this past Super Bowl. It really was. We had a house divided. And so my brother had the Philly stuff on, and, of course, a lot of people had the Kansas City stuff on. And so, but we enjoy football around here. It's something that we just love. We just love good games, good football. So we see a lot of it going right now. And I love the direction the NFL's going for the future. And so, man, like I said, with Jalen getting his contract, Pat over in the AFC, tearing everything up, it's going to be some good games for quite some time. It's quite some time.
Yeah, the next crop of superstar quarterbacks is definitely here. Which it's nice that there wasn't a lull after, the elder generations of your Bradys and your Mannings. Like there wasn't too much of a lull before the new wave of kids. I mean, the AFC right now is much more competitive, just quarterbacks alone. So, Pat Mahomes better get his stuff together because the Eagles pretty much have camped out their spot for the next couple of years in the Super Bowl.
Well, Pat is always going to be with it, man. That's why I love his staff, man. He's always ready, no doubt about it. But there's these young guys are coming up after him. I say young guys, obviously, Burrow, Herbert, Allen, NFC. The thing is, I mean, you see some guys over there that's kind of, showing, who they are. But there's a lot of competition. When I was in the NFC East, that was the best, division in football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So
it was certainly the most competitive, even with Arizona being a part of it.
Right.
Wait, I gotta. I know we're kind of holding you hostage a little bit here, but I gotta ask. You have all these teams in the NFC East. You've got a bus ride to Washington and a bus ride to New York and to New Jersey. Excuse me, a plane ride down to Dallas. But why? What do you feel when you go to Arizona?
Man, I tell you, I had no idea. It's crazy just thinking that. It's like, why are we over here, Arizona? We're like, what did how that transpired? I don't know, but it was the one time to kind of get away that you knew you was going to go on the West Coast, but it was Arizona, so it wasn't quite like going to California, San Fran or LA.
That never made sense to me.
Never made sense. Never made sense, man.
But again, thanks, Jason, for joining us. We're definitely gonna have to get you on when the Eagles and Chiefs play. Kind of get a preview matchup of that. Have a pod with you guys. Definitely want to do that. But again, really appreciate you coming on the show, giving a little bit of some insight on your career and with the Eagles and your draft moment. It was great stuff. I love doing this with former Eagles.
Yeah, this was
kind of
phenomenal.
giving their stories. And the one thing I will say about the Reggie White, it was glad you didn't talk trash because we had Trey Thomas and Barrett Brooks on, and they said if you talk trash to him, he was coming. So
yeah, you don't want to awaken that beast because we kind of consider ourselves the offensive lineman network. So we got Jeremy Bridges who does a show on our network. We talk to all the guys, and the consensus was you didn't want to awaken that beast.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you maintained. I don't know. I was trying my best. I just knew Monday night. I was like, oh, just don't get embarrassed. Don't get thrown with the one arm. And get that film
on the highlight.
Oh my goodness, right? But it was a good story, man. At my rookie year, I'm gonna tell you that and I'll leave you out this. My rookie year, the defensive ends I went against. Oh man, Kevin Green, Bruce Smith, Charles Haley. I'm telling you, Greg Lloyd. I mean, the whole Bills defense. We're just talking, man. I'm just like week in and week out. It was a Hall of Famer every single week. That's what it was like every single week.
And then in the division, you had the Cowboys and you had Michael Strahan, right? And with the Giants.
Stray. Oh my goodness.
I saw in one of your clips you had, Levon Kirkland trying to chase you down. Like, you had some people.
Yeah, we had some people. We had definitely some people. So yeah, man. No, this was fun, man. I appreciate it, fellas. Definitely,
Absolutely. And again,
Jason, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll do it again.
All right, sounds good. All right, that'll be good.
Take care.
That's pretty cool. Hearing some of the guys that he had to play against, with, around. I mean, I'm always impressed by the guys who, have that longevity in the NFL. He mentioned some of the injury stuff, which is,
but he played 8 years with the Chiefs.
But he played 8 years with two different teams, played with, the greatest tight end in NFL history. He played for, one of the greatest coaches, even if it was only for a year. He played with both Detmers. He played with, Charlie Garner and Ricky Waters and Irving Fire and Brian Dawkins. Like he
played 160 games in the NFL.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So towards his ending time with the Chiefs, all his time with the Chiefs, he was mostly a blocking tight end. But again, you need that in the NFL. Look who he blocked for: Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson, two huge.
Played for Dick Vermeil and Marty Schottenheimer. He played for some dudes.
Yeah, he played for some great coaches. He played for great organizations. So it was great hearing those stories. And again,
I liked the draft insight, especially with the draft a week away. And I mean, we hear all the stuff now, like Sirianni's like
visits you get and everything like that. Yep.
Right. He's like, Sirianni will play horse with the guy now, but I like to know some of the process of it all, because again, we as podcasters kind of just go, well, we don't know why this and this, but the organizations that do their due diligence are the ones that find the diamond in the roughs. And, a guy like Jason Dunn, who, fell to them in the second round, but made the most of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, you can find great players anywhere in the draft. And again, next week, it'll be the 3-year anniversary, as well as we're going to be doing a one round mock draft. We're going to have a bunch of us on, and we're going to go.
We're just dividing the picks up.
We're going to divide it up and do the picks and have some fun. Maybe give little explanations on why we do certain picks, not just the Eagles. We'll do the whole draft since the draft.
Whatever pick I'm getting that's not the Eagles, I'm picking the most off the wall one just to screw everybody's draft boards up.
Well, again, you never know what happens.
I'm doing
Weird things happen with the draft. But with that, again, we want to thank Jason for coming on. And again, this is Chip. I am Johnny. And we always end it with a very happy and joyful
Go Birds.
AATBirds.
There's nothing like this game.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This is your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.